Welcome to Just Stories. We hope you enjoy the story. The Falklands Conflict, A Battle for Sovereignty, by Just Stories. Chapter 1, The Road to War. Welcome to the first chapter of the Falklands Conflict, A Battle for Sovereignty. In this chapter, we will delve into the historical context and events leading up to the conflict between Argentina and the United Kingdom over the Falkland Islands. The Falkland Islands, also known as the Malvinas in Spanish, are a group of islands located in the South Atlantic Ocean. They have been the subject of a long-standing territorial dispute between Argentina and the United Kingdom, with both countries claiming sovereignty over the islands. The roots of the dispute can be traced back to the early 19th century when the islands were first claimed by the UK. Argentina, which was then a Spanish colony, also laid claim to the islands and protested against the British presence. The dispute simmered for many years, with occasional diplomatic exchanges and even a brief naval encounter in 1833, but no resolution was reached. In the 20th century, the dispute remained unresolved, but tensions flared up from time to time. In the 1960s and 1970s, Argentina stepped up its efforts to assert its claim over the islands, citing historical and geographic reasons. In 1965, the United Nations passed a resolution urging the UK and Argentina to negotiate a peaceful solution to the dispute, but little progress was made. Meanwhile, the UK maintained its military presence on the Falkland Islands, and tensions between the two countries continued to simmer. In 1976, Argentina's military dictatorship, which had come to power in a coup, intensified its efforts to assert its sovereignty claim. The dictatorship saw the Falklands issue as a way to distract the public from economic problems and to rally nationalist sentiment behind its rule. In 1982, events came to a head when Argentina's military junta, led by General Leopoldo Galtieri, decided to invade the Falkland Islands. The junta believed that the UK would not respond militarily and that the international community would pressure the UK to negotiate a peaceful settlement. However, the UK's response was swift and resolute. Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher ordered a task force to be sent to retake the Falklands, and British forces sailed south to the South Atlantic. The Argentine military, which was ill-prepared for a full-scale conflict, was soon defeated, and the UK regained control of the islands. In the aftermath of the conflict, the UK's victory strengthened its position as a global power and enhanced Thatcher's reputation as a strong leader. However, the war also had significant human and economic costs for both Argentina and the UK. In conclusion, the road to the Falklands conflict was long and complicated, with historical, geographic, and political factors at play. The conflict itself was a tragic and costly event that left a lasting impact on the Falkland Islanders, the UK, and Argentina. In the next chapter, we will explore the invasion of the Falklands and the British response in more detail. Chapter 2, The Invasion and British Response. Welcome to the second chapter of the Falklands Conflict, A Battle for Sovereignty. In this chapter, we will explore the Argentine invasion of the Falkland Islands and the British response. On April 2, 1982, Argentine forces invaded the Falkland Islands, overwhelming the small British garrison stationed on the islands. The Argentine military quickly seized control of the main settlements, including the capital, Stanley, and raised the Argentine flag. The British government, led by Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, was caught off guard by the Argentine invasion. At first, the UK attempted to resolve the conflict diplomatically, but these efforts proved fruitless, and Thatcher ordered a task force to be sent to the South Atlantic to retake the islands. The task force, consisting of ships, submarines, and aircraft, set sail from the UK on April 5, 1982, and arrived in the Falklands area a few weeks later. The operation to retake the islands, codenamed Operation Corporate, was one of the largest and most complex military operations in British history. The first major engagement of the war occurred on May 2, 1982, when the British submarine HMS Conqueror sank the Argentine cruiser General Belgrano. The sinking of the General Belgrano, which was outside the exclusion zone established by the UK, remains controversial to this day. The task force then launched a series of airstrikes against Argentine positions on the Falklands, including Stanley Airport and the Argentine airfield at Goose Green. These strikes were followed by a successful amphibious assault on May 21, 1982, when British troops landed at San Carlos Bay on the west coast of East Falkland. The British then launched a ground offensive to retake the islands, facing stubborn resistance from Argentine forces. The battle for Mount Longdon, in which British troops faced intense fighting, was one of the bloodiest of the war. However, after several weeks of intense fighting, the British were able to defeat the Argentine military and secure control of the Falkland Islands. The war had a significant human cost, with around 900 people losing their lives, including 255 British servicemen and 3 Falkland Islanders. The war also had economic costs, with the UK spending billions of pounds on the conflict and Argentina suffering from a severe economic crisis in the aftermath of the war. In conclusion, the Argentine invasion of the Falkland Islands and the British response were key events in the Falklands conflict. The UK's decision to send a task force to retake the islands was a bold and risky move, but it ultimately proved successful. The war had a significant impact on both the UK and Argentina, and its legacy is still felt today. In the next chapter, we will explore the military campaign itself in more detail. Chapter 3: The Battle for the South Atlantic. Welcome to the third chapter of the Falklands Conflict, a battle for sovereignty. In this chapter, we will explore the military campaign itself, including the naval battles, air war, and ground campaign to retake the Falkland Islands. The Falklands conflict was fought on several fronts, with naval and air operations playing a crucial role in the campaign. The UK's task force was tasked with protecting the islands from Argentine attack and launching strikes against Argentine positions on the Falklands. The first major naval engagement of the war occurred on May 2, 1982, when the British submarine HMS Conqueror sank the Argentine cruiser General Belgrano. The sinking of the General Belgrano, which was outside the exclusion zone established by the UK, remains controversial to this day. The loss of the General Belgrano was a significant blow to the Argentine Navy, which had lost one of its largest warships. The UK's naval forces faced several challenges during the conflict, including the threat posed by Argentine submarines and aircraft. The Argentine submarine San Luis was able to penetrate the British task force's defensive screen and launch an attack on the aircraft carrier HMS Invincible. However, the attack was unsuccessful, and the San Luis was later forced to surface and surrender. The British also faced a significant threat from Argentine aircraft, which launched attacks on the task force using Exocet missiles. The first Exocet attack, on May 4, 1982, resulted in the sinking of the destroyer HMS Sheffield. The UK responded by deploying its own aircraft, including Harrier jump jets, to strike at Argentine positions on the Falklands. The ground campaign to retake the Falkland Islands was also challenging, with British troops facing difficult terrain and strong resistance from Argentine forces. The battle for Mount Longdon, in which British troops faced intense fighting, was one of the bloodiest of the war. However, after several weeks of intense fighting, the British were able to defeat the Argentine military and secure control of the Falkland Islands. The Falklands conflict was a significant military operation, with both sides displaying courage and determination in the face of adversity. The UK's task force, which had been hastily assembled and sent thousands of miles from home, was able to defeat the Argentine military and secure the Falkland Islands. The conflict had a significant impact on the military strategies of both countries and highlighted the importance of air and naval power in modern warfare. In conclusion, the battle for the South Atlantic was a key part of the Falklands conflict, with naval and air operations playing a crucial role in the campaign. The UK's success in retaking the Falklands was due to the bravery and skill of its military personnel and highlighted the importance of effective military planning and execution. In the next chapter, we will explore the diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict and the aftermath of the war. Chapter 4: Diplomacy and Aftermath. Welcome to the fourth chapter of the Falklands Conflict, a battle for sovereignty. In this chapter, we will explore the diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict and the aftermath of the war. The Falklands Conflict was a highly controversial event, with both the UK and Argentina claiming sovereignty over the islands. The international community was divided on the issue, with some countries supporting the UK's position and others supporting Argentina's claims. The United Nations played a key role in the diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict. The UN Security Council passed several resolutions calling for an immediate end to hostilities and a peaceful settlement to the dispute. The UN also established a special committee to mediate between the two sides. Despite these diplomatic efforts, the conflict continued, and the UK ultimately emerged victorious. The Argentine military was defeated, and the UK regained control of the Falkland Islands. The aftermath of the Falklands conflict had significant political and economic consequences for both the UK and Argentina. In the UK, the victory was seen as a triumph of British military power and helped to boost the popularity of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. The Falklands conflict also had a significant impact on the British economy, with the cost of the war contributing to a period of economic austerity in the 1980s. In Argentina, the defeat was a significant blow to the military dictatorship, which had staked its reputation on the Falklands issue. The conflict also had a significant impact on the Argentine economy, which was already struggling with high inflation and debt. In the aftermath of the war, both sides engaged in a process of reconciliation and normalization of relations. In 1989, the two countries signed a joint statement pledging to work towards a peaceful resolution of the Falklands dispute. In 1990, the UK and Argentina established diplomatic relations, and the two countries have since cooperated on a range of issues. The Falklands conflict had a lasting impact on the Falkland Islanders, who have remained British citizens and have continued to assert their right to self-determination. The conflict also highlighted the importance of international law and norms in resolving territorial disputes, and it remains a subject of debate and discussion to this day. In conclusion, the diplomatic efforts to resolve the Falklands conflict were ultimately unsuccessful, and the conflict was resolved through military means. The aftermath of the war had significant consequences for both the UK and Argentina, and the two countries have since worked towards reconciliation and normalization of relations. The legacy of the Falklands conflict continues to be felt today, and it remains a significant event in the history of both countries. Chapter 5: Legacy and Lessons Learned. Welcome to the fifth and final chapter of the Falklands Conflict, a battle for sovereignty. In this chapter, we will reflect on the legacy of the conflict and the lessons learned from it. The Falklands conflict was a significant event in the history of both the UK and Argentina, with far-reaching political, economic, and social consequences. The legacy of the conflict can be seen in a range of areas, including military strategy, international law and norms, and national identity and memory. One of the key legacies of the Falklands conflict was its impact on military strategy and tactics. The conflict demonstrated the importance of air and naval power in modern warfare, as well as the need for effective planning and execution. The lessons learned from the Falklands conflict have been incorporated into military training and doctrine around the world, and the conflict is often studied as a case study in military history. The Falklands conflict also had significant implications for international law and norms. The conflict highlighted the importance of self-determination and territorial integrity in resolving territorial disputes and underscored the need for peaceful means of conflict resolution. The conflict also demonstrated the limitations of the United Nations in resolving conflicts and the importance of regional organizations in promoting peace and stability. The Falklands conflict also had significant implications for national identity and memory. In the UK, the conflict is often seen as a defining moment in the country's history, a moment when the country stood up to aggression and demonstrated its military prowess. In Argentina, the conflict is often seen as a national trauma, a moment when the country was humiliated and lost a part of its territory. The legacy of the conflict continues to shape national identities and memories in both countries. In conclusion, the Falklands conflict was a significant event in the history of both the UK and Argentina, with far-reaching political, economic, and social consequences. The legacy of the conflict can be seen in a range of areas, including military strategy, international law and norms, and national identity and memory. The lessons learned from the conflict continue to be studied and debated, and the legacy of the conflict continues to be felt today. Thank you for watching our story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, so you don't miss out on our next video.